the line of your reel, to the rods, to the anglers, to the lures on the end of your hook. Let's talk about those big bass here on Co-Angler's Corner with your hosts, Rob Welch and John Stoudinger.
Let's get this started tonight.
All right.
I'm John.
How y'all are? Cajun Rob here hanging out with you.
You sound like you're from Maine.
I haven't talked to anybody from Maine yet. I don't know. When I was out in California working one time, I used to say I was from Texas. I was like, Texas? I don't know.
Nah. But no, we have a very special guest tonight. He used to fish the NPFL series, tries to fish the Ohio State stuff, and they won't let him in. You know, I think it's because his nickname is Big Fish, but that's all right. He'll find a way one of these days.
Or Fast Eddie, he's Fast Eddie. He's got a fast boat.
Yeah, and he's quick at taking your money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, folks, a good friend of the show. We're going to talk about shallow water power fishing tonight. Eddie's going to go through a lot of that with us. And he's pretty much flipping, punching, spinnerbaits, top water. You know, I want to say, okay, shallow water is relevant to your location.
Yep.
I know some places shallow water is 2 feet and in. Some places around where me is 15 feet and in. It just depends on where you're at. But get your pens, papers, notepads out, and hit the subscribe button so you can watch this show again.
Absolutely.
All right, let's welcome in Mr. Eddie Big Fish Carper. Big Bass Eddie. Welcome, Big Bass.
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
All's good in the neighborhood here. Just
exactly.
Out and trying to make a living.
There you go. I get that.
In the center.
Now I know you're in Ohio, but you don't sound like you're from Ohio. But we all know that.
Yeah, I am. I got to get situated here. It's something.
Yep.
Something with my phone the camera ain't jiving here.
Yep.
That's all right.
A minute ago, but now it's not. Anyway, we'll lean to the side here. We'll make it work. Now,
there you go.
From southeastern Oklahoma, where most of my career has been fishing shallow, muddy water. We do have some clear water there. Brookbow Lake's close to the house. It's very clear. So not a huge amount of flipping goes on there, but there is some in the spring, and when the water's up a little bit, it can be absolutely phenomenal, especially with the water's falling and the fish get grouped up on the points, in the bushes on the points. You can really, really catch a lot of good fish doing that. And that's a clear water lake. It's not gin clear like some of the Great Lakes, some of the northern lakes are, but it's clear enough you can see down there 8 or 10 foot sometimes. Sometimes when I was a kid, you could see a lot further than that. It was even clearer. You could see probably 20 foot.
Dang.
Maybe even a little bit more than that if during the wintertime when the water wasn't moving much. But I'll pick up a flipping stick anywhere I go. I don't care how clear the water is. I have seen bass cruising up there in 6 inches of water in gin clear water that you looked like they were crawling on the bank. There wasn't no water there.
Yep.
So I've pretty much made a fishing career out of fishing shallow water. So that's kind of my bread and butter. I can go out there deep with the best of them. I ain't as good as some of them out there deep on the ledges and stuff like that, but I'm not scared to do it. I've won money doing it. And I've done it for years. I'm just more adept at fishing shallow water cover and kind of picking it apart and figuring out some little special something that makes it work. I fish a lot like Greg Hackney does. So there's several of them out there that do very well. The Lane Brothers from Florida, they're notorious for flipping. I like the challenge of getting those fish out of that cover. I like big line and I like big rods.
Yep.
So, and I don't like moving, just burning real fast down a bank or something like that. I'm not a fast kind of guy. My dad gets on me all the time about that. I need faster, and I just can't hardly make it. But to talk about catching fish up shallow, the biggest thing that you have to do, the absolute most important thing that you have to do is be stealthy.
Yep.
Be quiet. Don't make noise. And particularly early in the spring when fish are first pulling up, you want to be extra quiet then. If you open your lid, you want to shut it real slow. I don't care what kind of boat you got, whether it's aluminum, fiberglass, Ranger, Triton, Phoenix, it don't matter. They're all going to make noise if you just let them go and slam them.
Oh, yeah.
It transfers through the water a lot faster than it does in the air, and it actually goes further in the water, and it makes vibrations, and that's what really travels through the water. So being quiet, having a quiet trolling motor, things like keeping your motor straight behind your boat. If you're trolling down a bush line, you don't want the back kicking in towards it or out from it. The boat control is also a really, really big deal. It doesn't sound like it's a big deal up shallow, but it really is. The angle which you come at a piece of cover or a piece of structure is crucial in whether you get that bite. And after you get your first bite, particularly one bite's a fluke, right?
Yep.
2 bites is you're starting on a pattern. If you get a 3rd bite, you're ready to roll now.
Oh yeah, you're locked in.
So you're pretty well locked in. So usually those bites are going to come from a particular type of tree, a particular type of stump, a particular color of a stump. There's something there that those fish like, and especially like a big female, she'll pull up next to a stump. She ain't gonna let no other fish pull up there on that stump with her. That's hers, or that brush pile, or that bush, or whatever. It's hers.
Oh yeah.
She'll run everything else off, So that fish is wanting to get by that stump. Well, he'll go down here and find another stump that's similar, and he's gonna, or she's gonna sit there. So once you figure out where the fish are on a point, and I'm not talking about a point like you think of on a lake, like a point bushes. You'll go back into a little pocket, and the bushes they're kind of like grass. They don't run in a straight line. There'll be one sticking out there a little bit further than the other ones. That's the prime target usually is those point bushes, and particularly if the water's falling, they're going to be on those point bushes. Now, I'm not a big proponent of flipping a jig in thick bushes. I like to flip a piece of soft plastic, some type of little creature bait that's got some thickness to it that'll hold the hook, keep the hook from pulling through it, and getting you hung up a lot. So, a lot of people like the jig, and a jig is notorious for getting a big bite. Now, you'll probably get a bigger bite on a jig than you will on a plastic, but you'll have a lot less problems flipping in this. The worst is what I call button willows.
Yep.
What some people call butt brush. The actual name of it's a button willow. And fish love them, and they love to get down there in the roots of them things, which are really thick. And a jig, a lot of times, you'll poke through the weed guard and hang up a lot more with it. So I'll go with something like a brush hog or something like that. Usually something, I like rounds, so I try to stay natural if the water's somewhat got some visibility to it, maybe 6 inches or a foot. If the water's super duper dirty, that's when I go to a black and red or a June bug, some type of solid black, some type of dark color has more visibility in it. Those are just a couple of little things that I can throw out there to help somebody. Kind of got to match the conditions for what you're
Right.
what you're fishing there. But
So
I've caught fish flipping in 30, 40, 50 feet of water.
Yep.
It's not a solid shallow water technique. If you go on, I fished Grand, Texoma, lots of lakes that have boat docks and slips and marinas that are sitting out over deep water. Those fish will lay right underneath those floats, and you can flip a little. And my favorite there is a jig. You know,
Yeah.
come on. Hey, I ain't gonna flip nothing else. But usually, sometimes it's early in the year. I'll do something like a 5/16, maybe a 7/16. Later in the summer, I'll go to a faster fall to make them react a little quicker, and I'll use a 5/8 to 3/4 ounce, maybe in some cases even a 1 ounce. So that's one scenario. Also, deep trees like you have on Fork. For years, I've flipped those deep trees with a salt crawl or a tube or something, and just jack them. I mean, catch 5 fish a day that weigh 30 plus pounds, easy, and I can do that pretty regular. Just like they caught them down there in the Bassmasters Elite this year, where they was catching them on forward-facing sonar with a jerkbait.
Yep.
I catch those same fish off those trees, flipping those trees.
Yeah.
And I haven't been down there since I got forward-facing sonar, fishing down there. So I'd love to, and I will someday soon, go back and point that thing at them trees where I can see them fish sitting on the trees and actually target the trees that I know a fish is sitting on. Used to we was guessing at it. We'd have to fish them all. Now you can run up there, around, ain't nothing there. You can move on to another tree, and you're just way more efficient.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
Now, I tell you, I can catch it. A 30
when you're flipping your brush hog or whatever, and what's your setup like? Rod, reel, line,
So the rod I use is a 7'6". My favorite rod since I started working with Pride a couple of years ago. It's 7'6", heavy action flipping rod.
Yep.
And it is 3 years I've been using this rod. I ain't messed up a guide. I ain't been a guide. I ain't had no issues with the rod, the reel coming out of the rod seat, nothing. It's been a phenomenal flipping rod for me. I typically use 20-pound test fluorocarbon for everything, unless I'm in heavy grass. If I'm in heavy grass, then I'll go to a 65 or maybe even an 80-pound braid, depending on where I'm at. If I'm in Florida, it's probably going to be on the bigger side. Down there in that grass in Okeechobee, I'll do 80 there. But most places it's 65. I don't want to go too overboard with it because it gets too stiff and you just don't quite get the action in your bait or your frog. If you're throwing a frog, 50 pound is usually a pretty good medium for that. But typically it's 20-pound fluorocarbon. If I'm really going to a place like, say I went to Wright Patman out of Texarkana a few years ago with the MPFL. I went up to 25-pound fluorocarbon there.
Wow.
Because catching, 4 to 5, occasionally a 6-pound fish, and they were in the root systems of those button willows that had not leafed out yet. They were still dead looking, but the fish were in them. That and logs or trees that had washed up from the wave action on the bank and fell over. The trees were in the fish. They weren't on the trees. They were in the root wads, particularly in the root wads, and particularly on the points, just like I was talking about a minute ago. And the water was receding just a little bit, which was pulling them to those points. And to add to all of that, we had a shad spawn going on.
Dang.
Again, on the points. So you could just absolutely I was catching, 50, 60 fish a day to get cold up to 18 pounds. I think the last day I had 21 pounds, I think. And then the first day I only had like 16. I was sicker than a dog. The second day I had 18 or 19. Then we went up to 21 on the last day, or whatever what it was. I don't remember. But it was a good event for me. I finished 8th. I really thought I could do better there. I won 3 or 4 tournaments on that lake in the past, years and years ago. But it changed a lot in that amount of time. A lot of the bushes that it used to have aren't there anymore. It's typical. The lake's aging. More engineers fluctuating the water, and that's what's killing our lakes back east. Is that water fluctuating constantly, and it's not so much the water fluctuating, it's that they'll draw the water down, and the wave action washes the dirt or the soil out from around the root systems of those bushes.
Yep.
And then they freeze in the wintertime, and it kills them.
Yep.
So they don't come back in the spring. They wind up washing up, and the roots die. They fall over, and eventually they just rot away. So our bank structure is getting some real damage to it. One of my home lakes, Hugo Lake, used to be phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal for flipping. It's kind of more or less where Dad showed me how to do all this stuff back when I was a little old bitty kid, and I couldn't hardly do it. They jerked me out of the boat nearly when they get my worm. All we had back then was a little old wingworm or something we'd throw in there and catching fish and But over the years, they have done that with that lake so much that the lake is primarily sand. It's washed the sand out of those bushes on the shoreline, and then they freeze in the winter, and then they die. And now we don't have hardly any bushes at all. And unless the lake's up a couple of foot, you can't get a boat to where the bushes are because the bank flattened off so much. Instead of it coming out, it used to come out pretty flat, and then right there at the bush line, it'd drop a foot or two. And now, instead of having that foot or two drop, it's just flat out there for 40, 50 yards. So it's hard to float a big boat up there shallow enough to actually catch them unless the lake's up a little bit.
Yeah, TVA's bad. The fish are going to beds on TVA lakes in Tennessee. Fish get on the beds and they'll drop the snot out of it, drop it 20 foot as soon as the fish start bed.
Yep. They do the same thing back home, and it's really putting a hurting on our fish populations because we just don't have the recruitment that we should have. So we'll get into a whole scientific study here on that, but that's my belief on why the shoreline is going away. And used to I want to say it used to didn't rain like it does today, but I know better because I remember coming up to my dad's to spend the summer with him and have to stay in the house for a stinking week because it rained a week straight.
Yeah.
July or June. Typically it's dry throughout the whole summer back in Oklahoma. You got, it'll rain up to about the middle of June maybe. You may not get another drop for 2 months.
Yep.
But lately, the last couple of years, that really hasn't been the case. It's pretty well stayed fairly wet, all summer long.
Okay.
But the more stable we can keep any body of water, it doesn't matter. The better off everything, the whole ecosystem benefits from that. Fish, frogs, everything. The shoreline cover, grasses. So back in Oklahoma, we can't grow. We don't have any grass lakes in Oklahoma other than private lakes or state managed lakes. We have a couple state managed lakes around that are full of coontail and various natural grasses. Not hydrilla. We don't have any of that I know of anywhere because that's invasive. But coontail, and the other big one is milfoil.
Yep.
We have both of those in a lake that's close to my house. And this lake doesn't have a lot of fish in it, but man, it's got some big ones. I mean, big ones. And you can go over there and that's where I go when I'm practicing. If I'm punching grass or something like that, I'll go over there and practice that technique a little bit, because that's a hard. It's not hard to flip a big weight through the grass and all that. What's difficult is knowing when a fish gets your bait. If they just set, because you might yo-yo it a little bit, and you think you're in the grass, because there's no movement there.
Yep.
If they get it and they pull you down, then you'll know it. But so I like to practice that, so I'm kind of on my toes when I go somewhere that does have a lot of grass in it, and I'm punching. And in that case, it go back to the flipping the wood. Like I said, the brush hog a while ago. It's one of my favorite baits to fish. I fish that thing differently than a lot of people. I don't use the great big heavy wire straight shank hook in that. I tell you what I use. I generally use a 5/8 to 3/8 ounce tungsten sinker with a bobber stop on it to peg it.
Yep.
And I use a regular old offset shank Gamakatsu 5/0 Gamakatsu hook. That's all.
So
I
you're
use.
talking.
Simple as it can be, and I'll catch everything that bites.
That's a good old hook right there. That depends him.
He's fixing to grab one off his
Oh
wall.
yeah, he got his wall fixed up now.
Are you talking the wide gap
Not
or
the wide gap,
just the regular?
regular one. Just
Yep.
like
So something like that.
Yep. But it'll have they make several different thicknesses of wire on those hooks. Some of them are open water fishing, and some of them are quite a bit stronger and thicker.
Yep.
I use stronger and thicker ones when I'm flipping. If I'm out on a 10-inch worm, I use the thin wire one, so I can get the hook in a fish a long ways out there. But in that case, I use that. If I'm flipping something like a tube or a beaver type style bait, anything like that, then I use a wide gap 4/0 usually. Yep. And if I can get away with a 5/0, if it'll fit in it, I'll use it. Sometimes I have to go down to those right there. Yep. Sometimes I go down to a 3/0 if I'm flipping a smaller, like a 3.5 inch, bait like a similar to what I do down here on the Ohio River. Downsize everything, because you're not looking for 4-pounders, you're looking for 2-pounders. If you can even catch a 2-pounder down there, So last week when I went, I really downsized, put a small 3/0 hook on, a small little beaver bait that I got from Riot back years ago, and it worked okay. It did me a good job. Very small, little compact little thing, just flipping it around the logs and the trees, and they get it.
Oh yeah.
Barking Ruger says that wall though, a piece of tackle could get lost up there.
I think that's a compliment, maybe.
I don't know, man. His crappie rod is 7 foot extra heavy. But no, in all seriousness, like where I'm from in New York, I'm 15 minutes away from Cayuga Lake. Before the brains from Cornell University got involved, we used to have a decent population of hydrilla.
Yep.
And what we would look for is the milfoil mixed in with a hydrilla.
Yep.
Which would be the bigger fish.
Yep.
Well, now that they decided to kill all the weeds and stuff like that, make it a little clearer, it's gotten tougher.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we're people are talking about flipping with 12 and 14 pound test. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I ain't gonna do it. I can't control the hook set enough to do that. If I had a line that small, I'd have to flip with a medium action rod. So it's just
well,
fiberglass.
I look at it like this. They say fluorocarbon you can't see underwater.
No, you can't.
Right?
Yeah.
I know you can. But if you can't see 8-pound test, then why can't I mean you can't see 20-pound fluorocarbon, can you? That's what they say. Fluorocarbon, no stretch, no see. Well,
it stretches a little bit now. They
yeah,
say what they want to, but it does a little bit.
It stretches a little bit. It also you can see it.
Yeah.
And some cases, I'll be honest with you, some cases in various water conditions, I can see it in the water better than I can monofilament.
Yeah.
You know? But the reason I use primarily straight fluorocarbon is because of the abrasion resistance factor.
yeah.
Right. So that's why I went to it. That and fluorocarbon absorbs water, so it sinks.
Yep.
I'm able to get my baits down there a little better. It's a little more sensitive. I can feel the bites a little bit better. Back in the day, you know, if you don't want to buy a fluorocarbon, one of the best, most cheapest lines on the freaking market, and it has been for years. It's a great monofilament line, and it's a big game. I've used it, and I've caught a gazillion big old bass on.
Oh yeah.
It works with everything. And, you know, don't try to throw a jig out there and get it down 30 or 40 foot, though. Yep, you can see it right there.
That's the good stuff.
I got 3 rolls of it in my boat right now. I ain't Berkeley ain't a sponsor of mine, man. But
Mine either.
But I've used it for 100 years. I've got faith in that. I caught the biggest bass of my life, a 13.39 pound bass on 20-pound big game line, flipping sticks or stumps on Millwood Lake in Arkansas.
Yep.
So I've caught at least 4 bass over 10 pounds on big game line.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
At least that many.
Joe, you're killing me, man. Barking Uber says my Snoopy pole just laughed and chuckled up some 30-pound braid.
I rarely ever use braid. I'm gonna be honest. I can't stand it.
Yeah. Well, I think people don't understand braid.
It's got its time. It's like everything. There's time and place for it, but
there's a time and place, and I will use it. I've got 2 or 3 rods out there with it on right now. I love to throw top waters on it.
Yep.
I about won't throw a top water on nothing else, especially a popping bait.
Yeah.
I'm throwing a yellow magic or a papa or something like that. I'm gonna have braid. I'm gonna have 30-pound braid on there. I can guarantee you, because it's just positive. And
so what is your setup for your popper? Rod, reel, line?
I have an old rod.
Okay.
I got 2 of them. I have 2 old Falcon rods before they moved off to China. These are old. You couldn't buy them from me. I promise you right now. You can't buy them rods from me. They're sentimental. They're 6 foot. I'm wanting to say they're 6'5".
Yep.
6. They're not real long, fairly short. And they're like a medium heavy fast action.
Yeah.
But short. And I throw that because I want that little give on the tip, but I want it to be fast. But I don't want to overpower the bait. So same rod I use for a jerk bait.
Yep.
Throw a jerk bait on. I'm probably fixing to change up some of that stuff and do some different things with my rods and retire some of them old rascals, because they getting lots and lots and lots of miles on them. But those rods never come out of my rod box in my boat. They're in there all the time, and that's specifically what they're for. They're top waters and jerk baits.
Yep.
Yeah.
And particularly that popper or yellow magic's my favorite one. Is the yellow magic.
Oh yeah.
Throw that on 30-pound braid, and I'll whiz it out there about as far as I can throw it, and then pop with it, and if one comes up out there 50 yards from me and eats it, I'm able to hook him with that braid.
Now, with that, do you with your braid, do you put a monofilament leader on it or no?
Not typically. I have did that if I'm having problems with with it, getting the hooks wrapped around it and stuff, but I try not to do that if I can help it. If it's fairly calm and there's not a lot of wind, then I won't do it. But if there's some decent chop on the water and windy, then I'll put that little small leader on there. And I also tie a loop knot on those Rapala knots. So that can walk better. Most people don't do that, but I religiously do that on both my jerk baits and the topwater baits. So I want that bait to have as much free movement as it can get, which causes it to hang itself in the line a little bit. It's a little aggravating, but I feel I could get better bites or more bites when I do that.
Absolutely.
But I'd pretty much swear to it.
Yeah, I got one of the better topwater fishermen around my area from years ago. I got to fish with him at a BASS Open. He zeroed on day one because his boat broke down, and so he called me up. I've known him, and he goes, "I'm debating whether to come back tomorrow and fish day two because I don't have a chance." And he goes, "The only reason I'm thinking about doing it is because you're my co-angler." And he goes, "What do you want? What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to see how you throw a spook. It's not exactly a Zara spook, but it's that style of bait.
Yeah,
made by Pose, the Pose jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some that was made in the 90s, and so he's like, okay." So we get out there, and he uses 30-pound braid. He puts a split ring on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and that gives it the freedom to walk even more.
Yep.
And he could make that darn thing walk in a circle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what? I'm like, I tried that, and I was like, no, not gonna happen for this kid. Thank you, baby.
Well, that's what causes a fish to strike a lot of times, is when the bait turns around backwards. Look back. You can do the same thing with a jerk bait. When you're jerking a jerk bait, if you do it just right and you jerk, and then kind of like half jerk with a bunch of slacking, that dadgum thing will turn around and look at a fish if it's following it, and they just jump on it, man.
Oh yeah.
Take it. That popper is kind of the same way. That's kind of what I like about the Yellow Magic. It walks extremely good. I can make it dang near turn a circle, and man, have I caught some giants on that stupid thing. They're so loud. I mean, they make a lot of noise. They call fish from a long ways away. Now, if I'm in clear water, I throw a clear topwater. I'll throw a completely clear spook or something, sometimes, because I don't want the fish to get a good look at the bait. I want them to see it, but I don't want them to come up there and eyeball it. It's kind of like if you're fishing Murray or Hartwell or one of them lakes in the Carolinas that got them dang minnows in them, herring. What you call. You throw a topwater bait out there, buddy, you got to rip it across the water. I mean, you got to really run it for them fish to take it, because if you barely move it, they won't. If you do it like you do on a normal lake, they won't even look at it. But if you throw a dadgum plastic minnow out there, a Zoom fluke or something like that, you about to have a damn 20-speed reel to reel it fast across the water to make them fish react to it.
Oh yeah.
I'm dying. I went there to try hurt people. I've seen people catch fish on it on TV for years. I went there trying to do it like I do it back home. They wouldn't even look at it.
Yep.
But I started reeling it in real fast, and they just jump all over it. So that's kind of the trick with that. But
my first open I fished with my first day was with Bill McDonald, and down on Douglas Lake, and I was out there practicing. And if you moved, like up here, if you just move the Zara spook a little bit, the smallmouth will come and tear it apart. I had this spook and I was walking it, and it was like every third twitch, it was popping out of the water. And those fish would come and slam it as soon as it hit the water. I'm like, oh, okay, I got something.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Scott Noah wants to know about the juice on the Ohio River.
That's my buddy Scott. Hey, how's it going, Scott? Now, Scott, you're a hammer now. Come on now. I know you're a hammer now.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you about Scott. He's a hammer. He ate some of that James River Master Jeremy made baked pie.
Yep. Oh, he was a part of that. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I think he's the one who smelled something burning. But anyways,
I'll have to hold that Ohio River stuff back for a minute here till I get done this weekend down there. I think I may be full of it, but I think I found something pretty special when I went down there and just kind of looked around last Saturday. I had the weekend off, so I just drove down there and slept in the boat. I got a little mattress I lay across the deck of the boat and a little sleeping bag, and of course I didn't know it was going to be 95 degrees all night, so it was pretty. It wasn't that hot, but it was in the upper 70s, so it was pretty dadgum warm. So I didn't really sleep very good, but I got up and I put in and run around, and that was when I got the call in the middle or email in the middle of the night saying I couldn't fish that tournament. So I just put in idle by everybody and see you and fishing. But I didn't really figure anything out until the afternoon. But once I figured out exactly what those guys were doing, it was pretty darn easy, and they weren't huge fish, but they were plentiful. It was, I went from nothing to having a limit in probably 10 minutes. This is up in the middle of the day. I'm thinking, man, wait a minute, this might be something good here. I mean, I had me one that was about 3 pounds, and then
that's a giant there, man. That's a giant.
Most of them were 12 to 14-inch fish, though. But that's still a limit of fish. If you get a limit of fish on the Ohio River, you're gonna get a check.
Oh yeah, you're a player. You're a player.
You're gonna get a check.
Now so, he doesn't need to know the secret. What's your boat registration number?
I hadn't looked at it in weeks. I don't remember that one. I remember the license plate on my truck, but I can't remember that boat registration number. I never have been able to. Never really paid attention to it.
Well, Scott, buddy, I tried for you, man. I tried.
But it's I've always liked to fish places like the Ohio River that are really tough, really hard to figure out, really hard to be consistent on, and places you just don't get a lot of bites.
Yeah.
I'm weird, I guess, but that's kind of what drives me. It makes me, in my mind, I got to figure out how to catch these fish, and I'll keep going and going and going and going until I figure something out. I mean, I don't practice for the tournaments or nothing like that. I work. Tomorrow's Thursday. I got to work Friday. I'll drive down there Friday night and sleep in the boat again, and get up and fish the tournament the next day. I may just stay at home and drive down that morning. Takes me 2 hours or so to get there.
That's not bad.
Not bad. So I've always enjoyed that. A lot of people commented on my stuff about going to the Ohio River. That place sucks, and I won't go there. Come over here and fish with us. The fishing's better. You can catch 20 pounds over here. Everybody likes to catch 20 pounds. I'll be honest with you. But 8 pounds wins here, 20 pounds wins there. It's still winning.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
One's a little funner than the other one if you're, riding the head. But me, I like that tough stuff. I don't necessarily want to have to work for it so hard, but I like it being tough because that's when I feel like I'm at my best. I'm really in tune. I'm trying. I'm thinking about what can I do get that next bite or get 5 bites, So I don't know. I guess that just comes from the old days of me fishing the rivers back in Arkansas and Oklahoma.
Yeah,
stuff.
Scott's saying about 10 pounds of wind Saturday.
Oh, probably.
Probably. Yeah,
Probably.
I agree with that.
Something every 9 to 11 pounds, somewhere like that. And
Trisha Payne McGraw with Fish Her. She doesn't think there's any juice on the Ohio River. maybe some grapefruit juice, but
yeah, there's
Scott,
pretty close there.
Yeah, Scott says if you catch him on the Ohio River, you can catch him anywhere. He won with 9.6 and 4 fish.
Yeah, that's where Bill Lowen come from, and Bill Lowen, he catches shakes on the leats all the time. That's where he was born and raised at. So, that's
it's all the frame of mind. All when, like I said a minute ago, winning with 8 pounds is just like winning with 20 pounds.
Yep.
It's just a frame of mind. But, you have to, on places such as the Ohio River, eliminating water's just as important or more important than finding what the productive water. You have to eliminate a ton of water because there is a ton of dead water on the Ohio River. I mean, I went out there this weekend. I'll throw a little bone out there. I went just down from the ramp, and my fish aren't very far from Tanner's Creek, right? What I found is not very far away. But I went down there a little piece, and I seen a bunch of water willows along the riverbank. So I idled over there to them, and man, these things got 1.5 foot, 2 foot of water in them. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna kill them here. They got to be here. No. No. I came back 3 times in a day and fished that. And there was probably 100-yard stretch of maybe a little more, and I never got the first bite. All I seen was carp.
Dang.
I couldn't believe it, and they're right there on. And we're talking about just feet from 15 foot of water, just right there, and they're right there in the bend of the river, on the outside bend where the current's going to hit it. I thought, man, this is money. No, it wasn't. That really surprised me. That really did surprise me. But,
saying, if it looks too good, it probably is.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned around here fishing in here in New York, if there's carp, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, most time.
And I see that up and down the river. Just
Trisha with Fish Her says Ohio River is definitely a tough fishery.
Oh yeah.
And our boy Joe Ruger says that's so true. This Sunday we ruled out all but 3 places we went. Not enough fish to even stay in the place.
Dang.
Even if I don't see a bass on the electronics, you won't usually find bass where you aren't finding a decent amount of other fish.
Yep.
And it all depends on what type of fish they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The first time I went down there, I got my line broke twice. And
I'm
sure big catfish.
Oh yeah, there's some in there.
Tip them in a tree top, and that thing goes. When you get those bites that are significantly harder than what a bass normally hits, something's wrong, And I got the bite. I seen my line jump, all that good stuff. And there was about a 2-second delay there where I was thinking, should I jerk on this fish? Because I know what it is. And I said, yeah, why not? I need to have some fun anyway. And I need to test this new line I'm playing with. And, I set the hook, and, the battle lasted probably about 5 seconds.
Oh.
It went off with my hook. But it was one of them big ones. I mean, one of them really big ones. I mean, I've caught some 30-pounders, and this thing was probably every bit of that, because when I set the hook, there was no
give.
Hook. There was no. He just went.
That'd been fun in a kayak.
Ooh.
would have been, he'd have pulled you right up into that tree. Because it was a board tree he was in.
Oh, hey.
One of my favorite trees for bass. That's like number one bass. Love them, board arcs.
Yeah, Trisha Payne McGraw wants to know, what pool do you like to fish?
I really don't know what even pool that is, but it's in Cincinnati. So I haven't really done any sort of research on it whatsoever. I just been going fishing, so I can't really tell you a pool number. I just know it starts up above Cincinnati and runs down to what's that little bit? I just drove through it the other day. Can't remember what the name of that little place is. That gum, I'd have to look it up. How can I?
Trisha, Eddie, just to let you know, Eddie's new to Ohio, so
yep.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for Trisha. Who was that young girl that just caught the record catfish? Was that in the Ohio River? It was like a huge 50-pounder or something. Remind us. I can't remember, but I mean, she got a big one. I know y'all big with her, and one of you girls there. So, yeah, Tanner's. Yeah, Tanner's. Now, there's a place out of Louisville. If you go west of Louisville, there's a good little place right in there too.
Yeah, I actually seen where there's a BFL coming up that's further down towards Kentucky Lake in that last pool down there. But I probably won't go that far to fish it. I've been kind of itching to get up to St. Clair and Erie and catch some smallmouth. So after this weekend, this tournament, that's probably where I'm going to be every weekend. They're out because I need to learn those fish up there just a little bit.
Yeah. There's what it was. Hey Eddie, you might have got that catfish. Young girl Jalen Parker caught 101 pounder. Said by New Richmond, Maysville area. I know where Maysville is.
Man,
whoo.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a beast right there. I think it's about as big as she was.
Yeah, that would be.
That's a whole family buffet and then some.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I caught one that weighed 21 or 2 pounds one time. I was crappie fishing, 6-pound test.
Oh.
Big game line.
Yep.
That big game monofilament. 6-pound test. I was crappie fishing. I caught one that weighed 21 or 22 pounds. It was years ago. And I brought that thing home and hung it up and cleaned it out. And we eat that thing for a week. But really, that's the only catfish. It was a flathead. And I'm pretty sure that's what I had down there on the river here this week. Yeah. But a flathead, a big flathead tastes just like a little flathead. But if you get blue channels, when they get big, they get
not that good.
Ain't good.
Trisha with Fish Her says there's a BFL at Tanner's Creek Saturday.
Yep,
I'll be there.
Sweet. We'll be watching for weigh-in, man. Checking you out.
Yep, I won't be watching the weigh-in. I got to turn it myself on Oneida Lake, and if 12 pounds wins it, I don't know what to say.
12 pounds on Oneida? Nah.
No. There was a tournament there last weekend, a partners tournament, and 23-something won it.
Ooh.
My buddy had 19.70 and was in 22nd place.
Jeez.
Ooh. I'm up there.
Ooh.
Come on over, Eddie. I got a spare room.
I've been wanting to go to Cayuga really bad.
I'm 15 minutes.
15.
Wow, you're right there.
Hey, we got to make a date here. I got to come up there now.
There you go.
I got to do that. And it ain't like it's. I was looking at the other day. It's only like 8 hours from me.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
That's not too bad. It's within a half a day, so I could roll up there, Friday night and fish Saturday and half a day Sunday and roll back down there and go back to work.
Shoot, yeah.
I'm off on the weekends.
Yep, I am too. So at least for
There
eventually,
you go.
days a week, and it'll be a little tougher to get off. But I think that's going to be more 2025-ish. So that's going to be, something interesting was sent to me today. I got an email from I almost said it.
Yeah.
On the Tackle Warehouse Invitational, and it was a questionnaire on what they should do for 2025, basically.
Oh.
So about bringing back the championship.
Need to. Yeah, I agree.
So that's a good thing that they're thinking about bringing that back, kind of turning it back into what it was when they took it over several years ago. Championship will be $200,000 plus the berth into Red Crest on the winner, and $50,000 the second, and on down the line to be the top 50. I think everybody gets a check, for making it, and there's no entry fee. So I think the last place, it's either all 50 get a check, the last place gets $2,000 or $2,500, or it's the top 30. I can't remember what it said. I'd have to look it up on my phone. But something else that was very interesting to me is they had some questions in that questionnaire about forward-facing sonar. Should they allow it? Should they limit it? Should they limit screen size, amount? Should they limit the number of transducers? Should they ban it? So there was like 6 questions there. I thought it was pretty interesting that they're reaching out to the anglers to see what the hell we want.
Yeah.
Where's the customer? So
I got a question.
we need input.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Do you think they're going to pay attention to that questionnaire?
I think they might have to at this point.
I don't think the powers that be in that place. I think that was just a political stunt type thing. Like, hey, we asked the anglers, and this is what we come up with.
I'll put it this way: if they don't pay attention to it, they ain't gonna be here in a couple of years.
Yeah, they got to do something. I mean,
just exactly, and that ain't just me saying it. That's a lot of people saying it. A lot of people.
There's a reason why people went back and left.
Yep. So they better pay attention to it, because you're looking at all your Bass Pro Tour people going back to Bass, trying to get requalified through the Bassmaster Opens, and going that route to get back into Bass. Polinick left. Polinick come back a long time ago. You got it's a bunch of them. I can't even name all of them, but there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things there that matter a lot.
Hey, James,
to a fisherman, and MLF just doesn't seem, or up till now hasn't seemed to give a hoot what anybody had to say or thought about it. It was their show, and they were going to run it their way, and they weren't going to listen to their customers. Their customers are the anglers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anglers should have some say, at least, in what's going on. Yeah. I think this is the first time I have ever got a questionnaire from MLF about what they should do for the upcoming season. First time ever. First one I've ever got. I've got a bazillion of them from Bassmasters.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I get them pretty regular from Bassmasters, but this is the first one I've gotten since MLF took over. So I'm happy to see that. I know several other people got it too, because they text me about it and want to know. But so that's
well, let's get back into fishing, not the politics.
right.
All right.
We got too much of that crap going on right now anyway.
Oh yeah, 100%. Trisha Payne McGraw, co-owner of Fisher, she's not gonna be any of your competition this week. She's gonna be at Lake Erie.
Yep.
So I think her 2 fish will beat your 5, but that
no doubt. Hey, Erie's got some got some ginormous smallmouth in it. I've seen them. I've caught them. When I went up there with NPFL, I got smoked. I got beat, and it's only because I went there with the mindset that I need to use really light line to get those fish to bite. And by the time I figured out that I really didn't need to do that, you know, because I broke every fish off that I hooked, the big ones, you know, and you know, they shake their head when they got to the boat and break that 6 pound, their teeth on the 6 pound line. So I went up to 10 and finally started catching them, but it's a little too late. I actually zeroed the first day of the tournament. I broke so many fish off that it wasn't even funny, and I didn't even go the weigh-in. I just went back to the Airbnb and got ready for the next day. I was upset. I know I had 30 pounds of fish on, and I couldn't get a one of them to the boat. I don't know if I may have had some bad line. I changed it all out, and I didn't have a problem. But I also went up to 10 pound tests, so I didn't really have that problem anymore. But when I first started, 6.
I use 6 pound all the time and have not had fish break off.
There's a lot of muscles. There's a lot of muscles out there. So I mean, it's tough place.
It is, and that's the thing. You got to check your line. So when you're flipping plastics, all right, do you always peg or use a bobber stop? Bobber stop.
I'd say 90% of the time, I'm gonna be pegged, and that's just so when I flip into that bush, that bait follows that weight down through the. Now, if I'm like pitching, you know, sporadic stumps or something like that, where I'm not really worried about that, sometimes I'll let the bait separate from the weight just a little bit.
Yeah.
Even when I do peg away, I leave a little bit of gap between the bobber stop and the weight. So I want that weight to wiggle. I want it to make some noise. You know, when I shake it, I want it to make a little bit of noise. I want there to be some movement there. So I leave that little bit of a gap in there. You know, particularly with a tube. If I flip it, I especially want that gap for sure. But the only time I don't really peg it is if I'm like, you know, dragging something over a brush pile or in a brush pile, or, you know, flipping slick stumps that don't have limbs and stuff on them, you know, in shallow water, you know, then I'll do it. But I'd say 90% of the time, I have a bobber stop on.
All right.
Gotcha.
All right. I know you're ready for this question. You've told us before. We're getting late in the show. What's your favorite homemade cookie?
My favorite homemade cookie?
Yes, sir.
Oatmeal.
There you go.
I think everybody this week was oatmeal, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so far. Yeah, it was.
I had to go
with raisins or without?
Yeah.
Do you want raisins in your oatmeal cookie or no?
It doesn't really make much difference to me, you know, but I do like to have the raisins in there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't all the time, but sometimes it's nice to have that little bit of a sweet in there with it. You know what I'm saying? Before we go, I want to talk about this rod that I mentioned. So yesterday, and I just learned this yesterday, so I don't know a whole lot about this. So I just learned it literally last night, right? But it made me real happy because, you know, Pride doesn't sponsor me anymore. You know, we kind of parted ways, had some little separation issues there over a situation, but I've got over my hurtness, and they have too, and we kind of come back together on this.
Good
but
deal.
You know, 2 years ago when I started messing with them, I asked them if they could make a rod in the $100 range. They said, no, it's impossible. And they kept saying that. I said, man, you're missing an entire market.
Yep.
You need to make, not everybody can afford a $300 rod or $250 rod or $450 rod, or, you know, them high-end rods. People just can't afford them. A lot of people, they don't go fishing enough to even make it worth their time and money to buy something like that. But so last night, I guess the phone call from Robert Means.
Yep. Robert's a good guy. I know Robert.
One of the sales guys down there. And he said, look, you can give them my phone number. Anybody that wants to talk about it, they can call me directly. I'll tell them all they need to know. But it's a 7-foot, 2-inch rod. They make it in 2 actions, heavy action and medium heavy. Right? The blank comes from Norfolk Composites, the American-made company out there in Washington that makes all these blanks. Right? So, and then it's rolled. They put the guides on it. They have American craftsmanship there at their shop, and they glue everything up and do all this work, right? So they do put an American tackle reel seat on it, which is comes from overseas, and the rod, the guides themselves come from overseas, but they're made here. Everything's assembled right there in Montgomery, Texas. That's where his shop's located. Unless he's moved. I heard he was getting another shop. I don't know exactly the address of where that was at. He was working out of his house. But this rod retails for $159.99, and it's an American blank. It's American made. Some of the components are sourced from elsewhere, but I don't believe there's a company in the U.S. that actually makes rod guides and reel seats. So I don't know that to be a fact. I'm just saying. But the rod is assembled right here in the United States with American hands, and by one of the most famous rod builders there has ever been, Mr. Billy Kistler.
Billy Kistler built some good rods, I guarantee you.
I mean, he had All-Stars and all kinds of different rod brands coming up through the years, and they all got bought out. You know, he sold them and went to do other things, and he got back into rod building about 4 or 5 years ago. And I've got some of his higher-end rods that I flip with. I mentioned the flipping rod that I use. That is my favorite flipping rod of all time that I have ever owned, ever, of any. It doesn't matter. That thing is primo perfect. Now it's more than $159 though.
Oh yeah.
More like it's in that $300 range, but it's a really, 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 really good rod. I've got some $500 ones that can't even come close to holding the camera. So
I used to build all my rods, and I have some blanks out there from and I want to say mid to early 1990s by a guy that you might have heard of this guy, Gary Loomis.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I think he owns Norfolk Composites.
Yep.
He does.
Yep.
He's made a lot of money. He sold what? 1, 2, 3 companies now?
Yep.
Oh yeah, at least.
Yep.
Because I'll tell you what, after he sold to Shimano, he started Rogue out in California, Rogue Fishing. I got a couple of blanks from him from there. I got the original Gary Loomis rods or blanks. And
you can't beat what he makes.
No. And I'll tell you right now, some of those rods he had back in the blanks I got are as light as the blanks they got now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tell you a little story. A company I represented not too many years ago, they used Norfolk Composite blanks.
Yeah.
For a long time. Their rods were solid. Never had a problem with them. Never heard anybody breaking them. Never nothing. Well, all of a sudden, they up and started using Toray blanks out of Japan. I'm not saying there's bad stuff coming out of Japan or China or anywhere like that. I'm not what I'm saying. But all of a sudden, rods started breaking.
Yep.
And they just started disintegrating in people's hands on hook sets and stuff like that. Now, I know the Torre blank is a very high modulus blank. It's super high, very light. It's very comfortable to fish with. But my experience with it hasn't been so good. Not so good. So I'm going to say that right now I'm very happy to use a Norfolk composite blank. I've never broken one.
Cool.
That I know of. I don't believe ever. And so my favorite rod of all times. They went overseas to China several years ago, and that was the immediate reaction I had with them too. Broke every daggum one of them.
Yeah.
The
Now,
quality just not there.
No.
When you go spend $300 or $400 on a freaking rod, you expect it to last more than 3 months. You know what I'm saying? Like I step on them, slam lids on them, stuff like that. I mean, they're just freaking, I got one time brand new. The first time I went fishing with it, I set the hook on a freaking crappie in a bush, and every guide on the rod come off.
Oh, heck.
Brand new.
Oh.
I ain't gonna tell you who the maker was, because that wouldn't be right.
I had something like that happen to me, and that's why I dropped one of the companies that I used to deal with. And we were driving down the lake, first time having these rods out. I lift my rod up, my spinning rod, 3 inches broke off.
Mm-hmm.
Never even got a cast out of it.
Oh, man.
But
I rolled up at a tournament down here on Watts Bar.
Yep.
So I opened my rod locker. I keep my rods in sleeves, right? We all keep them from dangling up. I had 3 rods that broke in the rod locker.
Huh.
On the trip down.
And it had rod sleeves on. That's crazy.
Yeah. Blew my mind. So I had to call the company and say, hey, send me a couple rods overnight. They broke, which they did. They charged me for them, unfortunately. But at least I had some rods to fish with, because I don't like to have a whole boat full of flipping rods. I carry 2 or 3.
Yep.
Various other sizes. But every one of these did that. And I've got some indigestion going on.
Oh, you good, man?
Drink water, but I eat a hamburger for dinner, and I shouldn't have did it. I'm paying the price now. I didn't want to cook for myself tonight, but the more of our stuff that goes over there to be manufactured and shipped over here, what happened during the shipping process? Did they unload it off the boat and whack it against something or something? It's just not as maybe they're just as good, and just all the shipping overseas and all the travel that causes a problem with them. I don't know, but I'm gonna tell you this right now: if I can buy a rod that's designed and made by Billy Kistler for $159, I'm about to fix to send them a check and get a whole bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be, they're going to be a great entry level rod for people, and I'll enjoy representing them and showing them off, because, I'm going to get some to go fishing with myself, because I don't need a $500 rod to do what I do.
Yep.
The $159.99 rod is going to do just fine for what I'm going to use it for, and I can properly represent that rod because I'm using it actually.
Exactly.
A lot of people representing stuff ain't actually using that stuff, But, and I'm just saying right now that if you can get his name, anybody watching, I'll put. I don't know it. Thing's too small. You can't see it. I'll have to put it in the comments. His phone number. So he told me, I asked him today, I called him today and told him that I was doing this podcast tonight. I said, look, I said, if you want me to, I said, I'll give them your phone number. That way people can call you directly and get all the particulars on these rods straight from the horse's mouth, not coming from me. You can call him right down there in Montgomery, Texas, and he'll be happy to mail you a rod for $159. I mean, you can't beat that. And you're talking to the dude that built the rod, so, or, you know, it's right there next to the guy that built
Designed
the rod.
it, yeah.
I mean, there's no way, there's no company I know of anywhere in the United States or anywhere else that you can call and talk to somebody like that.
Yep.
Nobody.
Absolutely.
So, I just want to make a comment. Barking Rivers, you know, he said he's probably the minority in the group that doesn't look for a budget rod. That's not true. I refuse to spend over $200 on a fishing rod.
Yeah.
If you know, for the maybe 25, 30 days a year I get out on the water, you know, because I can't afford to take the time off, don't have a boat, you know. I'm not going to break the bank on the rod. I've seen $500 rods break just as quick as a $30 rod.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, my first open on Douglas Lake, we went up the river and I fished with a guy who was sponsored by Shimano. And that was back in early 2000s. I shouldn't say early, about 2014, 15. I think he broke 3 or 4 Shimano flipping sticks. The GLXs, I think they were back then.
Yep.
I broke 3 or 4 of them in 20 minutes. He said he was getting bit, but I really think the knuckles of those tree stumps were getting him.
Yeah.
But,
makes you wonder.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you a couple stories. You know, I broke 2 rods that cost me over $500 setting the hook on fish, and they weren't big fish. I'm talking 12 inches. I can't make the camera. This camera's weird. I can't get it right. It ain't big enough. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? And those were some overseas sourced blanks.
Yeah.
You know? And I just, you know, I'm just like the average person. I want to spend my money wisely. I want to have a piece of equipment that I can depend on.
Yep.
And I want to have a piece of equipment that's going to work. I'm not necessarily worried about, is it super light? Is it super sensitive? I just want something that's going to hold up, you know, that's fairly sensitive and, you know, fairly light. And if you weigh these rods that we've got today, they're within a couple ounces of each other anyway.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much difference there. I'm just shocked that we have a company here that's willing to make us a rod and retail that rod for $159. And this is not no piece of junk rod. It's a pretty dadgum good rod.
Oh, absolutely.
I just learned, but I know, and I got pictures of it. I've refrained from putting them on Facebook or anything until I could talk to it on this podcast here. I'll put them on Facebook later and Instagram and all that crap. You know what I mean? But I wanted to break that to everybody right here on this podcast.
Absolutely. That's a great concept, man. I think that's going to really fly. That's going to fly.
I think it is too. Now, you know, Falcon did that many, many years ago with their Buku rod.
Yep.
Which is made in China, Indonesia, or something that where it ain't made here. I can tell you that. But anyway, you know, I tried to get them 2 years ago when I was talking to them about this. I tried to get them to come in there on that $100 range, but you know, I couldn't build it for $100 myself. If I went and bought the blank from Mud Hole or somebody else, by the time I put Fuji guides on it and a Fuji reel seed or American Tackle reel seed, whatever.
No,
Then I'm
not
gonna
even close.
I'm gonna burn so many hours building it.
Yep.
Turning, drying it, putting all the stuff on it, man. No, I couldn't. There's no way I could build one myself for $100.
Yeah.
$159 is a darn fair price for a premium American made rod. It may have some components sourced from various manufacturers overseas. Like I said, the reel seat and the guides is what he told me. That's the only thing they get from overseas, but they all come from overseas anyway. No
Yep.
matter
Oh,
come from over there, is what I understand. But
They do.
man, if I'm getting American craftsmanship for $159, I'm buying them all day long.
Absolutely. Now, is it got a cork handle on it, Eddie, or what's the handle got on it?
It's EVA foam handle.
Oh yeah, I like an EVA foam. But it's just wet. That stuff sticks.
I've always been a really big fan of premium grade cork.
Yep.
I got a few rods a while back. First rods I've ever fished with that had the foam. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I've been an idiot. This stuff is better.
Yeah.
Like I said, wet it, don't get slippery.
Yeah, exactly.
You hang on to it better. I mean, it's I'm not going to say it's a better, more, will outlast a good premium cork handle, but I can darn sure hold it in my hand a lot better.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
all right, guys. Well, we're getting way into this. We'll have to continue this another day.
But yeah,
us old people.
Before we go, I want to give you three things, or a couple of more things that'll help you when you're fishing shallow water. One is a double Colorado spinnerbait, smaller one. Sometimes you get away with a big one, heavy one, but a 3/8 double Colorado, sometimes a half, will dadgum sure catch a lot of fish. And then a man's 1- crankbait.
Yep.
If you throw that up there and burn it up to them stumps and them logs and kill it, if he's there, he's going to eat it. You may not catch him, but he's going to eat it. So that's my advice for anybody that wants to fish a bunch of shallow water like I fish. Throw them shallow running crankbaits and Colorado bladed spinnerbaits, flip them bushes and logs, root wads.
What do you say about the Colorado blade? I was at Wattsmar BFL. It got kind of cloudy, windy. Threw one out there and started waking it. First time I've waked a spinnerbait in decades. Caught one first cast.
Yeah. I heard about half of that. You kind of broke up.
Oh, I threw that Colorado bladed spinnerbait like he's talking about, and I waked it. Waked it on, made a little V in the surface. First cast, caught a keeper. First cast.
Yep, that's how you want to do it most of the time. It's slow. You keep it up high. You run it slow. It makes a wake. It actually mimics a bait fish that's running across the top of the water.
Absolutely.
If you can make a little movement with your rod tip side to side like that, it's even better. You change the angle of that spinnerbait just a little bit. It kind of acts like a little square bill, or even that little man's 1- crankbait where it hunts around just a little bit. That's what you're looking for. That's the crankbaits that actually really produce the fish. The ones that just kind of veer off every now and again and kind of do their own thing. That's what
they hunt. They say they hunt. They hunt back and forth, and yep, exactly.
Yep. Well, I tell you what, I've enjoyed talking to y'all tonight, and I look forward to the next time, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper.
Absolutely, man. Hey, always a pleasure, sir. And everybody is, and he's talking about Pride Rods, and look them up on the internet. Pride Rods out of Texas.
Yeah, I don't know. Y'all are breaking up so bad, I can't.
Oh, I'll talk about Pride rods. It's all good, man. Hey, we appreciate you, brother.
Take care, sir.
Anytime. Have a good
All
night.
right. All right. Thank you, buddy. All right.
All right. Well, we're only a little bit past what we normally go, but a lot of information there.
Yeah, it was. That's amazing. That's 150 for that caliber of rod. That's pretty impressive. And I said I know Robert Means and Billy Kistler, great guys, outstanding guys.
For sure. So next week, let me see who we got for next week. Okay.
All right.
Let me get these things on. All right. July 1st is Monday.
I know it. Smuff's gone, man.
Yep. We have the Rookie of the Year for the LBAA leading off Carly Jo Prevette, the co-angler. Rookie of the Year.
Outstanding. Met her in person, actually. Great girl.
Yeah. Then we have David Carey.
Yep.
And followed by Tucker Smith on Wednesday.
Man, they were a great lineup, man. We just keep getting some good ones.
Yep. That's all we can do for you, folks. Just try to get you.
A lot of great juice tonight, guys, for sure.
Yes, sir. But no, we're going to try to get some more women on. The LBA championships coming up. I reached out to a couple people. Some people actually contacted me and said they want to do the podcast. So August is going to be a lot of women.
That's all good, brother.
All right.
We've had some great ones. And got some more great ones to come on.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. Well, y'all take care. Enjoy the week. Have a good weekend and be safe.
Appreciate y'all. Peace out.